Before you order that spicy tomato cocktail at brunch, you should know who it's named after. It's not named after a charming lady named Mary. It's named after the first Queen of England, a woman who burned nearly 300 people alive in just 5 years. Welcome to the darkest chapter of Tudor history, the story of Bloody Mary. But before Mary could become the villain of our story, she had to step over a body, the body of an innocent 16-year-old girl. Let's rewind a bit. Remember Henry VIII, the guy who broke up with the Catholic Church just to get a divorce? Well, when he finally died, his young son, Edward VI, took over. Edward was a hardcore Protestant. He hated Catholics, but Edward was sickly, and he died as a teenager. Now, according to the rules, the next in line for the throne was Henry's oldest daughter, Mary. There was just one massive problem. Mary was the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, Henry's first Catholic wife. Mary was obsessed with Catholicism. The Protestant advisors running England panicked. They thought, if Mary becomes queen, we are all fired. Or worse. So, they hatched a desperate, illegal plan. They decided to skip Mary and give the crown to her cousin, a smart, quiet, 16-year-old bookworm named Lady Jane Grey. Jane didn't even want to be queen. They told her, she fainted. She literally cried and said, "This is not right. Mary is the heir." But the powerful men around her forced her onto the throne. And for exactly 9 days, Jane Grey was the Queen of England, the 9-day queen. But they severely underestimated Mary. Mary might have been ignored by her father for years. She might have been hidden away in the countryside. But she was still a Tudor. And Tudors don't give up power easily. When Mary heard about the coup, she didn't hide. She went full Game of Thrones. She rallied an army. She rode through the country, gaining support. The people of England loved a legitimate heir. They hated the greedy advisors who put Jane on the throne. Mary marched into London without firing a single shot. The coup collapsed instantly. Jane Grey's supporters abandoned her to save their own skins. Mary was crowned Queen Mary I, the first true Queen Regnant of England. At first, Mary wanted to be merciful. She knew Jane was just a pawn used by ambitious men. She locked Jane in the Tower of London but planned to let her live. But then, Jane's father participated in another rebellion against Mary. Mary's advisors told her, as long as Jane is alive, Protestants will try to put her back on the throne. You have to kill her. Mary struggled with this decision. She didn't want to kill her young cousin. But to secure her power, she made the cold calculation. On a cold February morning in 1554, the 16-year-old, 9-day queen, was led out to the Tower Green. She was blindfolded. She couldn't find the execution block and panicked, asking, "Where is it? What shall I do?" Someone gently guided her hands to the block, and with one swing of the axe, Mary's reign truly began in blood. Executing a rival is pretty standard for monarchs back then. If Mary had stopped there, history probably wouldn't call her bloody. But Mary had a mission. A holy mission. She believed her father, Henry VIII, had doomed England to hell by abandoning the Pope. She believed it was her God-given duty to save the souls of her people by turning England back into a Catholic country, whether they liked it or not. First, she needed a Catholic ally, so she decided to marry Prince Philip of Spain. This was a huge mistake. The English people hated the Spanish. They were terrified England would just become a puppet state of Spain. Rebellions broke out. Mary crushed them brutally. The honeymoon phase with her people was officially over. Now, angry and paranoid, Mary turned her attention to religion. She revived old medieval laws against heresy. Basically, if you weren't Catholic, you were a criminal. At first, the government went after the high-profile Protestant leaders. Bishops, archbishops, famous preachers. They were given a simple choice: turn or burn, convert back to Catholicism, or face the stake. Some converted to save their lives, but many refused. They truly believed their faith was the only truth. And so, the burnings began. The primary site was Smithfield in London. It became a theater of horror. Imagine the scene. Crowds gathering, not for entertainment, but in morbid fascination and fear. The victims were tied to wooden stakes. Bundles of wood and straw were piled around their feet. Sometimes, compassionate executioners would tie bags of gunpowder around the victims' necks, so they would die quickly from the explosion, before the flames reached them. But often, the wood was damp, the wind was blowing the wrong way, and the victims suffered slow, agonizing deaths, screaming in the flames for 20-30 minutes. The smell of burning human flesh hung over London for years. It wasn't just bishops. Mary's Inquisition started hunting down ordinary people. Blacksmiths, fishermen, housewives. Even a blind woman was burned for her beliefs. In one horrific case on the island of Guernsey, a pregnant woman gave birth while being burned at the stake. The executioner threw the newborn baby back into the flames. It was madness. Mary thought this shock and awe would force people back to the Catholic Church. She thought they would be terrified into submission. She was completely wrong. The burnings had the exact opposite effect. The victims didn't die like criminals screaming for mercy. They died like martyrs. They sang hymns in the flames. They preached to the crowds until the smoke choked them. The crowds at Smithfield started cheering for the victims and booing Queen Mary's officials. Instead of crushing Protestantism, Mary was creating heroes for it. She was making the Catholic Church look like a monster. While all this horror was happening outside, Mary's personal life inside the palace was a tragedy. She desperately loved her husband, Philip of Spain, but he found her unattractive and boring. He spent most of his time away in Europe, fighting wars. Mary desperately needed a Catholic heir to ensure her work continued. Twice, she believed she was pregnant. Her belly swelled up. She felt morning sickness. The whole country prepared for a royal birth. But 9 months passed. 10 months. 11 months. No baby came. It was a phantom pregnancy. Her body was tricking her because she wanted a child so badly. Or perhaps it was a symptom of the stomach cancer that was slowly killing her. It was humiliating for a queen. Her husband abandoned her. Her people hated her. Her body failed her. In 1558, after only 5 years on the throne, Mary I died, sick and heartbroken at age 42. She had burned almost 300 people alive to make England Catholic. And what was the result? The moment she died, her younger half-sister took the throne. Elizabeth I, the daughter of Anne Boleyn. Elizabeth was a Protestant, and she immediately undid everything Mary had done. England became Protestant again, and it stayed that way. All of Mary's cruelty, all the blood, all the fire. It was all for nothing. History is written by the winners, and the Protestant winners ensured that Mary would forever be remembered, not as the first queen, but as a fanatical monster. Bloody Mary, a cautionary tale of what happens when faith turns into fanaticism. So, the next time you see that red cocktail at a bar, remember the real blood and fire behind the name. What do you think? Was Mary a monster, or was she a victim of her father's chaotic legacy trying to do what she thought was right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to see how her sister Elizabeth cleaned up this mess and became England's greatest queen, make sure you are subscribed to Savage Archives. Click the link in the description so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for watching, and stay savage.